Hello guys, it's Tsukasa. Welcome back to Elder Scrolls Online. So, last time I glossed things over a bit much. I was trying to fit as much as I could in the overview of the game. I even had to break that episode into two parts because of file size, but I would like to delve a little bit deeper on specific topics of the game. So I'm going to release a couple of different episodes tailored around specific aspects. This episode is going to be character progression and class builds, the way you can spec your character. I also want to do a whole episode on the quest system. I'm rather impressed with the quests in the game, and I want to show some of that to you guys. And I also want to do a whole episode about the flaws of the game. There are some issues with it. The game's not perfect. Nothing really is. I'm still very, very impressed with the game, but there are some problems. And I wanted to devote a whole episode to that. And then maybe later on, farther down the line, I'll do a whole episode about crafting and one about PvP. But that's farther down the line. Anyway, though, class specs and character progression. So, the way they've made this game, it's, in my opinion, a rather excellent combination of a level-based system and a skill-based system. It's really the most functional and well put together combination of them that I've ever seen in a game. There is XP that you gain from killing monsters, and there is XP that you gain from completing quests, and that goes towards leveling up your character. You see, I am level 21, almost level 22, and every time you hit a new level, you will gain an attribute point. Yes, they've kept Skyrim's streamlined to death system of 1 point into magicka, 1 point into health, and 1 into stamina, rather than a true RPG like Morrowind and Oblivion had with strength, int, dex, etc. But I'm not gonna complain. I'm not gonna complain. The whole genre industry is moving towards streamlined to death for console kiddies that can't wrap their brain around strength, int, and dex, but I digress. Anyway, yeah, you get 1 attribute point that you can put into either of your stat pools, and no matter what your build's going to be, you don't want to completely ignore a stat. I will cover the reasons for that later on, but obviously if you're a caster, put a few more into magicka like I've done. If you're a tank, put a few more into health, so on and so forth. But you can't completely ignore a stat. I made that mistake. I'll talk about that in a minute. Aside from your attribute points, every time you level up, you're guaranteed to get a skill point also. Now, in the skills window here, this is where your bulk of your spec, class build, etc., and really the majority of your character's power comes from the things you unlock with your skill points. There are 2 different types. There's active abilities, like biting jabs here. These are the things you can put on your hotbar to use. And then there's passive abilities, which, well, do many different things that you can see in the mouse overs. You guys understand how passives and active works. Anyway, the different skills, this is where it kind of becomes a skill-based game. It keeps the traditional Elder Scrolls theme of individual skills and individual schools level up as you use them more. So whenever you put a skill on your hotbar down here, and you use it in combat, and so on and so forth, complete quests, it will gain experience by itself, and it will start to level up. You see this one's Biting Jabs 2. Once it gets full, it will go to Biting Jabs 3, and it becomes a little bit more powerful. Also, its overall school is Adric's Spear, and that gains experience also. And you see, like this, for example, I have to get my Adric's Spear 30 before I can buy this with one of my skill points. And once you have high enough on the school, you can just click the skill here and spend 1 of your skill points to unlock it. Pretty cool. Now, the coolest thing though is once the skill gets up to, I believe it's 4. Let's see, I think, yes, here we go. Destructive Touch 4. You can see that its XP is maxed out and the icon has changed over here. This means that it is now ready to be what's called morphed. Every skill in the game can do this, and it allows you to morph into 2 different skills. So, for example, Destructive Touch here, it's got a range of 7 meters, and a few different extra effects. If you're using a Fire Staff, it causes knockback. That's what I used in the last video when I was fighting that guy and knocked him back. That's what I was using. The Fire Staff did that. If I was using a Frost Staff, it would instead froze him in place, which is kind of like rooting and stunning at the same time, and Shock Touch disorients where they can't use skills. So that's the base Destructive Touch. Now, now that I've gotten it up to rank 4, I can morph it into 2 different versions of this skill. This one here will increase its range from 7 meters, more than double that, up to 17 meters. That's pretty good. The other one here adds additional effects to it. So, for example, it keeps the knockback with the fire staff, but it will also stun at the same time as a knockback. The frost touches freeze, last longer, and the shock touch has a chance to throw off balance as well as disorient. So that's pretty cool. Every single active skill in the game can morph and become 2 completely different skills, some of which vary wildly from the original version of it. So pretty much every single skill you have, you can see that I have here, I could have taken a different route with it. So that's pretty cool. That adds a lot of customization, making your character a unique spec. Really, there's no 2 identical characters in the game because of this. Anyway, though, some of the other things I want to talk about here is you can do just about anything you want with any character. I think I talked in the overview episode about how you can spec like a sorcerer to be a tank if you want to. The 3 class skills you get here, I'm a Templar, so these are the 3 Templar lines. If I was a Nightblade or a Dragon Knight or a Sorcerer, these 3 would be different. That's the only difference between the different classes, though. These 3 schools are unique to your class. Everything else is the same, and anyone else can choose from any of these weapons. I could go as a 2-handed sword, I could use a bow, a Sorcerer could use a bow, a Dragon Knight could use a Destruction Staff, etc. That's pretty freaking cool. Also, you can choose what type of armor you want to use. As the Templar, I could, if I wanted to, not spec into the Restoring Light. I could go instead with just Adric's Spear, and I could get the one-handed shield, and I could spec heavy armor, and I could be a tank Templar. So, even though it has the option of being designed around as a healer, it also has the option of being designed around as a tank, or you could just go straight DPS and do medium armor. I really like that. That is really cool, and because of the way the system works, as far as I can tell, so long as you think about what you're doing and you don't waste your points, like, obviously if I decided all of a sudden now that I wanted to use heavy armor instead of light armor, obviously I kind of would be gimped there. I put a lot of points into that, but you can respec these things. You can even respec your attribute points. It's a little bit pricey, but it can be done. So really, there's no way to gimp your character. Everything is viable up to a point. I do have a sneaky suspicion, though, that once you get to end game and you start doing the hard instances and the raids and stuff like that, I have a very strong suspicion that you're going to need a proper Templar spec healer. These Restoring Light abilities are just so dang good, and the Restoration Staff things, they're kind of an augment. To be a main healer, I really feel that you're going to have to be a Templar spec healer. That's just my suspicion, though. And I also think that you're probably going to need to be, a one-handed shield, heavy armor wearing tank. But anyway, I digress. It's revolutionary, really, that it's so open-ended, yet is very functional, streamlined, and put together well. It doesn't feel tacked on or anything like that. It's just so integrated. They've done an excellent job with it. I can't sing its praises high enough. Awesome, it started raining. Anyway, though, I wanted to talk about some of the other ways you can gain skill points. Like I said, every time you level up, you're guaranteed to get 1 skill point. But there's over 300 skill points in the game. Something like 305 or 310. Don't quote me on that, but everybody says there's over 300. Now, obviously, there are not 300 levels. There's actually only 50 levels, and then 10 veteran ranks beyond that. So, in effect, I guess you could say 60 levels. The majority of your skill points are going to come from other means. Some of these other means can include quests. Some of the longer, more main storyline quests, they at the end of the quest chain, it will give you a skill point. The PvE dungeons, I've done 3 of the PvE dungeons, and the missions for the PvE dungeons, each one of those gave me a skill point. So I got like 3 skill points from the 3 different dungeons. So lots and lots of quests give you skill points. So it's a good idea not to skip any quests and do every quest you run across. Some of the other ways is PvP achievements. I think there's something like 49 or 50 skill points total to be gained from PvP. And the main way, though, are these things called sky shards. You can see it lists it right here, sky shards 2 out of 3. Now, the way these work is they're kind of like holocrons from SWTOR. They're like little hidden things that are scattered all over the world, and every zone has these. And when you collect 3 of them, you gain a skill point, and this little counter will reset to 0. So I've got 2 out of 3. If I find one more sky shard, it will give me a skill point, and it will reset to 0 out of 3, and I gotta go find 3 more, which is pretty cool. One of the really nice features that they've added to augment this is in the journal. If I pull up my journal by pushing J, obviously it's got my quests in here, my quest journal. But these tabs over here, lore library and achievements, maybe I'll talk about the lore library in a minute, but under achievements is what we're looking for, and it's this tab called Sky Shards. In here we can see how many sky shards there are per zone. So Alakir has 16 shards, Betnik's only got 3, excuse me, Glenumbra has 16. Glenumbra is sort of the main newbie zone for the Daggerfall Covenant, which is what I went as. And so it's pretty cool that it shows you how many there are, but also beyond that, if you expand it, it shows you which ones you found and which ones you have yet to find. The grayed out ones I still haven't found yet. But really the neatest thing is, if you read these, there's little riddles to it. So, close to finding the kings, in the roots of the hallows. This little riddle that you solve the riddle, and it that scared the hell out of me. Anyway, it gives you kind of an idea of where in the zone you should be looking. So you're not just, oh god, I just gotta find this 1 or 2 more in Glenumbra, and you're searching the whole zone. Now it gives you a nice little riddle to pinpoint the specific area of the zone, which I really like. I like riddles, so that's a pretty cool feature. As you can see, there are a crap ton of these sky shards all over the place. So the majority of your extra skill points are going to come from these, which is yet another nice little sandboxy-like feature that is something to do it in-game. That actually will make your character better, instead of just being a pointless achievement, which I always prefer, not having pointless ones. Though I think that was the majority of what I want to talk about in this episode. I do want to talk a little bit more about the skills and all of that, and this type of skill right here is a different type. I'm going to cover all that in the next episode, and I want to show you some of the quests. I got one sort of prepped that is pretty cool, that kind of showcases how it works. Anyway, though, stay tuned for that. I hope you did enjoy. If so, as always, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe for more. Till next time, I hope you all have a good one.